Hello and welcome back to episode 21 of the ME7 Podcast. Well, the Gills didn't play on Saturday, and if you didn't know the reason why, you've been living under a rock for the past 3 days. Unfortunately, Her Majesty the Queen did sadly pass away on Thursday evening. Obviously, from all of the at the ME7 Podcast, we pass our condolences to the royal family, of course, and to anyone that was affected by the passing of the Queen. It was obviously a sad moment, and quite frankly, a monumental moment in our lifetime, really. Matt, we'll obviously touch on the subject of the Queen passing. We've obviously never seen it in our lifetime. It's one of those moments that kind of, well, it shocked the world, obviously. Yeah, how did you feel when obviously the news come through?
I mean, I'll be honest. I was sort of a little bit emotional. I've grown up obviously with the Queen. I've kind of almost seen her as almost like my third grandma. Wanting to know how she does, listening to her Christmas speeches, and it's sort of when the news broke. Obviously, it was a bit of a pill to take almost, because she was 94, wasn't it? 94. She's lived a long life, and she's been the Queen, also all of my life. And yeah, it was very sad thing to hear, and the whole nation, I believe, is a bit shocked. I do believe it was the right thing to not play any sports at the weekend, or any football at the weekend. But yeah, come on, Tuesday night we're back on, and up the Gills.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's going to be a bit of a different one tonight. We've got no game to review, but what we do have is we have plenty of questions for you guys to answer. We've had 14 questions in total come in, which we actually had 18 questions come in total, but some of them were the same. So I've spent this afternoon to whittle them down. And Owen has joined us. And Matt and Owen, you are going to be basically put into the limelight to go and answer the questions.
Yeah,
what's that, mate?
Apologies for the delay. That paella took longer than I thought it would.
The paella, I mean, it is a cracking meal. I wish Jules would bring that back. But Owen, I'm glad you have joined us, mate. Welcome this evening. Yeah, so we are going to be answering your questions, and then obviously we have got the little matter of Grimsby Town tomorrow night. As Matt has alluded to, the football is back in action, and we are travelling to lovely Grimsby tomorrow night. So we will be previewing that game, and I am of the understanding that the Premier League and the EFL is going to be also being played this Saturday. I know there's 3 games off that have been cancelled for the Premier League, but I'm of the understanding that Gills are definitely 99% sure going to be playing on Saturday against Mansfield. So we've got a couple of games to preview as well. So yeah, let's crack straight on with the questions then. And question 1 has come straight in. How obviously Robbie McKenzie was signed on deadline day by Neil Harris, and the first question has come in: how crucial will McKenzie be this season? So Matt, I'm going to throw that first question over to you first. Yeah, Robbie McKenzie returned on deadline day. How crucial will that signing be to the squad?
I think he's a very, very big player to have for the Gills. I mean, for me, he is a League One player. So for him to come back to Gills is brilliant. I would have thought he would have potentially have signed for somebody long ago. Obviously, there's reasons why. Obviously, he hasn't gone to another team. But for us to get him back, I think that's a big tick in Neil Harris's box to actually get him back on the books.
Yeah, Owen, thoughts?
Yeah, good player to have around. Versatility is very important, especially when you consider that we've not got many players of that ilk who can play a lot of positions, not only just across the back, but has obviously I think he's had experience pretty much everywhere, especially under Evans, didn't he, when he was playing up front against MK Dons in that second half. Yeah, I think we've actually looked a little bit better in recent games defensively, but it will add quality and resilience to that back line, which is desperately needed after the start of the season. And he might be able to pop up with a couple of goals. We saw it here and there. The game against Rochdale, and then we got a goal scored in Lovell's game against Burton last year as well. So if we can add a couple of goals, which desperately need as well, and it'll be a big help. And obviously, none of us wanted the game on Saturday to be called off, but in terms of Rob McKenzie and his fitness, it probably was quite a good advantage for us to have it off in that sense, I suppose.
Yeah, could we see McKenzie? Obviously, he's had that whole week of training now with no games, and I'm pretty sure Harris did have him in at the weekend. He's had that whole week now. Does he come into contention for tomorrow night?
I don't think he's going to start. Get him in on the bench, 100%. I mean, after the way we played against Swindon the other game, I kind of think those 10 players that finished the game, that were playing from 10 minutes onwards, are the 10 that you're going to put down in your team sheet because they gave you everything. Whether McKenzie was to fill that extra spot, I don't think so. I think he'll start on the bench and potentially come on sometime second half. He's not going to be 100% match fit at the moment. Even if he's been in the whole week, he's probably going to be around sort of the 75% mark. So, yeah, I think you'd start him on the bench and bring him on, second half.
Okay. Owen, what would you do with McKenzie tomorrow night? Would you ease him back in? Because obviously fitness on the training ground is completely different from match fitness, isn't it?
I think you ease him in. I don't think it's a wise decision to put him straight into the first team when he hasn't had a pre-season. I think the way you should do it, really, I'm sure Neil Harris will know this, he doesn't need any of us to tell him that, but I think the best way for him to go about it would probably be it sounds like quite traditional. You have, especially with the season we have where we're playing Saturday, Tuesday, a lot of time, give him 20 minutes here, then bring him on for half an hour there, and then gradually build him up game after game until he's in the position to start. That's what I personally do. I'd give him, depending on the game, maybe half an hour tomorrow. Especially if we're winning the game, get him on, help shore things up a little bit. But I wouldn't rush him straight back in to the starting 11. No.
Okay. Let's move on to the second question then. And quite an interesting one that obviously we've heard quite a bit certainly over the last few weeks that the co-chairman Paul Fisher he likes to obviously speak a lot on Twitter, rightly or wrongly. Obviously he's been criticised just a tad for a couple of times where he said things on Twitter which pretty much no one has agreed with. Certainly after the Carlisle game, I think he put his head on a bit of a stick that afternoon. But one of the things that he did mention in his initial interview was the fact of improving the matchday experience. I haven't seen it yet. That's not to say that he isn't doing it, and obviously that's not for me to sit here and say that he's not doing what he's been brought in to do. But we all know that the matchday experience at Priestfield just quite frankly isn't good enough. The food isn't good enough. The experience in the factory isn't good enough. Just the whole sort of for a visiting fan and a home fan at the moment in this current time, from what we see face value, it isn't good enough. Matt, what would you do, and what would you like to see as a home fan coming into Priestfield on a match day, week in, week out at a home game?
I mean, look, if Paul Fisher wants to give me a call, I've got 101 ideas, and he's welcome to all of them. But look, I mean, let's go back to the days of, inviting schools down and having the penalty shootout competitions. Let's get former ex-players in the factory before the game, doing a cheeky 5-minute interview, I enjoyed this about it. That will get people into the factory. Look, I don't know if we've got the budget to be able to do it, but look, let's bring back some cheerleaders. That was fun back in the day.
I knew that was going to come up.
Look, at the end of the day, all any football fan wants to do when they go to their game, they want to enjoy the experience from the second they turn up to the ground. Even if their team win or lose, they can go home, even if they're with their kids and their kids got big smiles on their face because they've had photos taken with ex-players. This is what we want, as Gills fans. We want to be entertained, not just for that 90 minutes on the football pitch, but from the minute we turn up to the ground till the minute we leave, we need experience. I generally believe the first step should be getting the schools involved. That getting the schools involved, doing a match day, penalty shootout, that's going to get you new fans. They're going to be the people then that are going to be buying seats in 25 years' time to watch the team play. So look, for me, the big thing with match experience is cater it to the fans. Forget about trying to earn extra pennies, from it. Make it fun for the fans, and if you're making it fun for them, then they're going to happily spend their money.
Owen, what would you like to see introduced at Priestfield on a match day?
I'd quite like to see more fan engagement, like Matt was saying. I don't know if it's something that we've tried before, but maybe like as the teams are warming up, maybe Doug, he does all the announcing. Maybe he goes across the crowd, lets some people, like responsible people, I will add, have their say on like what they think the score is going to be, what they expect from the game. Even if it's just kids or stuff like that, like someone of those like 10 years old going to his first game or something. Maybe not the drunk at half 12, 35-year-old bloke in the back of the stand. Maybe we'll keep the mic away from them. But just like getting people interactive, say like just these things, questions like who's your favourite player? What do you think the score is going to be? And I don't know if we still do it. I think this is something we might have done years ago, to be honest, but where they had like I don't know if it was, I think it was like fans asking players questions, but it was like a one-to-one sort of thing with kids mainly. And they put that in the program. I know we do these things that I see we put onto it. I don't buy programs anymore, so I don't know if Matt does, or I know you don't, James, but I'd like someone to see if they can say they've seen this or not. But I always see it on Twitter and Instagram where they ask us to ask players questions, but the answers are never put on the social media pages. So I think either they don't do it or it's in the program, which if they do it in the program, then fair enough, because I don't really
I've got quite a few programs that they do in the programs, which is great. But actually, do that again, put them on social media. That would be another big thing for fans. That's going to get fans to see that the players are, they're talking about the club. They're talking about, even ex-players who are talking about how their enjoyment, what they enjoyed playing for the Gills, why they enjoyed playing for the Gills. And again, it gets more fans involved because they can understand what the club means to the players. And if it means that much to the players, brilliant.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to slate it, because I don't buy programs, so it could well have been in there for all I know. But Awesome Factory is an interesting one. I would like to have thought they'd be able to put something like maybe like a dartboard or a couple of pool tables in there around the back. That would get people, you put the queues behind the bar, say it's, I don't know, £1 a game. Won't make you that much in a whole game because it's only £1, but you'll still get more people going in there paying for a game of pool or snooker, and then obviously when they do that, they'll get a drink with it as well. So it just gets revenue up a little bit. It's almost like making it a pub-like environment, I suppose. That's something I'd definitely look into. But yeah.
Well, I've noticed at the factory, at the back, there's obviously the back seating bit, isn't it? And that isn't that meant to be a food part? I
think it was meant to be. Yeah, I never actually see them bring any food or cooking anything there unless they do it quite early on in the afternoon.
But that's what I mean, is that if people are arriving for a 12:30 game, like last week, like the last home game was a prime example of it. Liverpool Everton, right? People are arriving for that 12:30 game. People then don't eat unless they go into the ground. Is that game will finish at what? About 2:15, something like that. So you're then basically, if people want to stay and watch that game, people are then not going to eat unless they go to the burger van across the road, which isn't the club's. People are then not going to eat for all of that game. And the fact of the matter is that if you open that food bar, which is around the back of the factory, all the way during the game, you'll make tons of money because people will arrive for the early kickoff knowing that they can get food. And then, and I also don't understand why they're not opening the door from the factory straight into the stand. It doesn't. You have to go out of the factory and then back in. It doesn't.
You could do deals with that as well. So like a pie and a pint for, I don't know, what's the going rate, like
£5.
A bit generous, but little things like that. I wonder if that's maybe a staffing issue where they can't find people. Well, either can't find people to do the kitchen or don't want to pay people to do the kitchen. So it's just sort of been left there.
Probably the latter, mate. Probably is the latter, isn't it? We all know it's the latter.
Oh yeah, I do think obviously when Scully was in charge, he was being very tight with the old purse strings. But I think Fisher's going to have to come in and look at it and see, look, if we can open it, that would be a brilliant revenue stream. It's straight away for the factory. It gets more people in there. It gets more money into the club. And then hopefully the club then can expand from that.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. All right. Next question then. Obviously, we've seen it a couple of EFL clubs or a few EFL clubs safe standing. And we all know that obviously for a long time the Brian Moore was a terrace stand, and it created brilliant atmospheres and brilliant nights at Priestfield. Would both of you or one of you be open to the idea of having safe standing at Priestfield? Matt, I'll put it to you first.
100%. It will take me back to when I first was a Gills fan in the 95, 96 years, going to see games, and I would always be in the Gillingham end. It was always my favourite end, standing up. I mean, we'd always get right down to the front as little kids, which was always brilliant. You know, get a chance to fist bump with some of the players. I would love to have it back, and I think again, and I think a lot of fans would. I think a lot of fans would love to go back to the safe standing rule, and the perfect opportunity right there is the Brian Moore end. You know, where we've got the scaffolding, let's get it down, let's put some safe standing up, and I think we'd pack it out.
Yeah, Owen, would you back the idea?
I like it. I like it as it is in the Radium end, I'll be honest. But in terms of Brian Moore, I've always liked us to get, because the way I stand is how high it is. I've said to Reece a few times, I compare it to if we did a safe standard. I don't know if you know it off the top of your head, but the main stand at Exeter, where they have the home fans behind the goal. I'm pretty certain that is standing, and the way that's like modelled is quite similar to what the scaffolding looks like at the minute. I don't know why it's still there. I've been saying, God knows how many times in the past, just to get it down and make it back into a terrace. You get more away fans wanting to come to a terrace, you know, even if it's what it looks like now. But it just, you know, the fact that we've had it there for so long and it's had the whole permanent name, not the permanent, sorry, what's the opposite of permanent?
Yeah,
my brain. That word where it's not meant to be there the whole time.
Temporary.
Yeah, that's the one. It's been called a temporary stand for God knows how long, probably since it ever went up. And you know, it's obviously we're always going to get the banter and whatever from opposition fans when it's in the winter. Just take it down, make it to terrace, put a roof on it. Like, I know it might cost, but we've had 25 odd years to do it now, however long it's been there. But it doesn't look like it's going to be changing anytime soon.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. All right. Let's move on to the on-field. And obviously we see finally our new kits are available. And obviously last home game, the Gills fans were able to purchase them. I mean, the home one is better than I thought. I like the pattern on it. I didn't realise there was actually a little bit of a pattern on the home one. The away one, yeah, it's nice. I'm not sure about the stripes that go across it. I think had it just been plain white, just all plain white, they could have completely whited it out as such, if that's even a word, and made a white badge and completely just, and that would have been really, really nice, I think. Where Matt, first question, what are your thoughts on them? Second question, where do they rank in the kits that we've had in recent years?
I do like the kits. I like the little design on them. I've got obviously a close up of being able to say close up and have a look. And yeah, I like that little design on them. Yeah, I'm not fussed with the away kits, but you know, blue's my favourite colour anyway. So if I'm going to buy one, it will be the home kit. In terms of rankings, I always love the old the classic one we had with the I wore with Dion Burton with the old lace tie up. Yeah. Look, it's not in the top 5, but it's not horrible.
Owen, thoughts?
I think the people who designed it have less creativity than we have up top, didn't they? They're so boring. They've been boring for years. I can't remember. I think the last kit I liked was the one under Edinburgh. You know, we had like the red and white bit down there, and then it was blue, and it was made out of a weird material, but it's quite nice. I still have it now. I don't think we've had a good kit in ages. I think they're always so boring. And I look at most of the teams in our league, even the ones who probably have lower budgets than us, if that's possible, they have really nice creative ones. You know, Hartlepool's ones, home and away, I really like. I don't know if you've seen them, but yeah, I think I was just so bland and boring. I think the white one would be nice if it didn't have the lines going across it. It might look a bit nicer, but there's just everyone thought it was funny when we had the pink kit, but at least it was a bit different and it was a bit vibrant, and they took a bit of a chance changing colours around. I just think it's just so boring. I don't like them at all, and I think we need to get fans involved. I'd like to see maybe a competition where people are invited to design their own kits and they look at them and think, yeah, that one will do, we'll take that one.
Quite a lot of clubs do that though, don't they? Certainly for their third kits anyway, they do it where fans send in the competition and then they pick the best one, don't they, of the design.
But again, in terms of fan engagement, that is something that, you know, I mean, just think how many thousands of fans will want to do it. And yeah, you're going to get hundreds that look the same, but you'll probably see one and you'll go, you know, if you're Paul Fisher, you're going to see one and go, wow, I never thought of having a kit like that. Yeah, let's do something like that. Let's be different. And you know, you can then give, you know, you promote the fan that's on it. Look what our fan has done. Design this team's kit for this year. You know, that fan will be over on top of the world.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, obviously, moving away from the kits, but still onto the on-field. Anyone that follows Danny Lloyd on social media notices that he's nearing fitness, and he probably isn't too far from getting back onto the field and certainly training again, whether that's non-contact contact. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because obviously we decided not to offer him a deal down to the long-term injury that he had. But one thing that stuck in my mind that Neil Harris had said is that the one game he did manage to play under him, the 45 minutes, he described Danny Lloyd as a game changer, and something that at the moment, quite frankly, in our squad we do not have. Matt, if it was you now, and Danny Lloyd was to become available and he was to become fit in around November time, would you give him a deal?
100%. Anyone that follows me on Twitter will see I have a photo of me and Danny Lloyd. He was by far my favourite player last year, obviously until the injury, which was gut wrenching, because I think, you know, I still say to this day, if he was in our team till the end of the season, I think we could have done something. So yeah, I would definitely take him back. Obviously, yes, the downside was with an injury like that, you know, you're not going to rush him. You're not going to be probably starting him every single game. But the type of player he is, I think he can impact the entire squad, even if just being part of that squad. So, yeah, 100% I would have him back.
Okay. Owen?
Yeah, I'll take him back. I think he's going to be an improvement on what we have. I don't think he'll come back. I think he's going to go back to Tranmere. And from what I spoke to with a player not long ago, it sounds like it's basically already decided that he's not going to be staying here regardless. So sorry, Matt, to ruin your dreams. But,
yeah,
you know,
I'd
like him to stay. I think he would offer us something we desperately need. I think it probably is better than a lot of the players we've got going forward. Maybe Green's, I don't say Green's better than him, but you know, in terms of who we've got performing to a decent standard up top, Green's probably the only one you can say this season has been consistent enough. I'll take Lloyd back. I don't know how you could turn your nose up at it, but from what I hear from a player, it doesn't sound like he's going to be coming back when he is fit. And I think he's been doing most of his recovery back in Merseyside, Liverpool area, which is obviously where Tranmere is situated. He's played there before. I think that'll probably just fall into place once he does become fit, and he'll be getting a short-term deal there. Or knowing our luck, he'll go to Stevenage.
Please
very
don't.
true.
Thing is, it's not that unrealistic to suggest though. Evans signed.
Yeah,
it's a fair shout. It is a fair shout. It's a fair shout. Okay, yeah, and I guess obviously it touches on the subject of the free agent market. And what stood out to me is that obviously we've not spoken about Neil Harris's comments when he was asked about the free agent market, and he said that he doesn't have any sort of thoughts about going into the free agent market at all, and he isn't prepared to. He feels that he wants to work with the current group that he's currently got. And he had an interview on Kent Online. I think it might have been today, or it might have been over the weekend. And he was asked about obviously the forward situation, and he basically, in a nutshell, said, "I can either go and get someone, which we're not in a position to do, or I can work with the strikers that I'm working with, because I was a striker and I used to go through these spells." Which, yeah, all right, fine, valid point. But I'm sure, Neil, you didn't go through over 600 minutes without scoring a goal. Matt, is it concerning that our manager is not prepared at all to go into that free agent market, because he's simply taken a stance of, look, they'd find a club. They would have had a club by now.
Yeah, I mean, I understand his comments of, look, free agents for a reason. They've obviously, either fallen out of favour at their club, or they're not scoring goals anyway. So why would you want to bring in a player who's not scoring goals? But obviously, if the right player became available, and that right player could be somebody who's playing, in Scotland, could be playing in Belgium, could be playing in Portugal. You never know. If the right player came along, for him to say that he wouldn't, sort of consider it, I think's a bit short-sighted. You never know. Obviously, when you sign a player, are they going to be 100, could score your team 100 goals? You never know if they're going to be, the best player or the worst player in the world. But if the right player that you've something you've been missing and they've got it, and you're not willing to sign them, and take a punt on them, I do feel, that you'd say a bit short-sighted from Neil Harris.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, Matt, isn't it? That obviously Burton went to sign Mr. Carriol this afternoon. Did you see that?
Yes, I did. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Is that I mentioned it last week on the podcast, that about the whole Harry Smith saga on deadline day, and it's quite apparently clear that it was Harry Smith.
Yes.
We're not silly enough to sit here and that it's not. And my frustration with it, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it, Matt, was that my frustration with it is that we obviously lost out to Harry at 7:05 to Exeter on deadline day, which obviously still gives us 4 hours of deadline day to finish. And my argument with it, and my frustration with it, is that why the hell did we put all our eggs in one basket? Because surely if you miss out on one, as in Harry must have been plan A, you then go to plan B. If you miss out on plan B, you go to plan C, and then so on.
So on, yeah.
And my other frustration with it is that obviously Leyton Orient would have made us pay all of his wages for the rest of the season. I can't imagine they would have paid anything towards his wages if he's going out the books. So there was obviously a budget there. And that's my argument. What are your thoughts on it, Matt? Is it frustrating that we did put all our eggs in one basket with Harry?
I mean, I believe Neil Harris did have a sort of an A, B, C, D sort of list, and yet probably Harry was at the top. And the only thing I can think of is his B, C, and D options obviously had gone elsewhere, somewhere else in the day, and potentially so they were only left with their A option, and then they've got 4 hours left, and well, all the options we've had have gone. What do we do? That's I'm thinking that must have happened. It is frustrating that in that 4 hours we couldn't find somebody else. But look, last year we signed Tom Dixon Peters, who had scored 19 goals or whatever it was in the FA Youth League, and he came with all this promise. He never got a kick on. Never really got 5 minutes on the pitch. He didn't really do much for us. And Neil Harris has got to think, you don't want to just bring in a random loanee last minute that's going to just sit on the bench and keep it warm. If he hasn't got a player that he's going to come in and at least fight for a starting place, maybe you have to walk away. But it's gutted we didn't get him. And I said, all I can imagine is that B, C, and D also must have gone at some point in the day, and that's why we couldn't get anything else over the line.
Yeah, fair comment. Owen, what are your thoughts on it?
Free agents, I know he said he doesn't want to look at them. I don't know if he'd be say. It's sort of like if he was looking at them, would he come out and say it? So maybe it's one of those things where maybe he is having a little look, but doesn't want to make it public. I saw Sam Winner obviously went to Burton as well, along with Mustafa Carrier. I would probably have taken him back now looking at it. Mustafa Carrier, it says a stater in. I don't even know who's available now. I know Tom Elliott's still there, isn't he? I think Chris Maguire went to Hartlepool. Then it looks like his whole career's trajectory, Sunderland to Lincoln to Hartlepool. It wouldn't really make much sense for him to change it and come down here. But it's just I think Harris is just looking at it now. So when he says he doesn't want free agents, I do actually believe him, to be honest. I think he's probably just thinking, well, I've got what I've got. We'll get to January and then we'll see what we can do about it. We are going to have a lot of questions to answer if we do continue going on this barren run in front of goal. Hopefully that ends tomorrow. But would you bet on it at this moment in time? I don't know. I think we could have done with looking at having the list of strikers like Matt said, and then obviously having to take into consideration, okay, these are the ones who have clubs, and then if we can't get what we want done in the window, then at least we have these backup ones should the window run out and we can't get them. But it doesn't really look like we've gone for that sort of strategy. As I've said a few times on the podcast, Mandron hasn't worked out to this point. There is still time, obviously. And then, you're looking at Lewis Walker, who probably is the biggest comparison you can make to Tom Dixon-Peters, really, actually. I think he'd probably fall into the same sort of category of just having someone there. So we have someone there in case. But I think it might well come back to bite us for not getting another striker in before the end of the window and not looking at free agents either. And if we are in quite a perilous position come January, then we're going to need to get something done, or otherwise we could be looking at the wrong side of the table. Yeah,
okay. We'll stay on the subject to Neil Harris because there has been a question come in that has said, what have you made of the performances under him so far, and what has been your favourite performance under him so far? Matt, go to you first.
What I've made of him, I do like listening to him when he's giving his interviews. I do think he does try and speak as honestly as he can, without obviously giving too much away. His best performance, though, for me, is going to probably have to be the Swindon game. Mainly just because, he didn't panic. He didn't start putting subs off after, 8 minutes. As soon as, he didn't start making wholesale changes to the team. But he commanded the team from the sideline, giving out clear, precise instructions. And it worked. I think most Jules fans who are at the game will back me and say, look, we could have easily won that game. And I don't think Swindon would have gone home and grumbled about it. Well, they would have grumbled, but we out sort of defence them. We were so good at the back, they weren't getting through. And to be honest, even the odd chance when they did get through, it was a nothing shot, and we had the better chances. So if we had come away with 3 points, I don't think Swindon would have grumbled at all. And for me, that's got to be probably the performance I want to see every Jules player give when they step onto that pitch. Give everything they can until that final whistle. And look, 0-0, 1-1 all. If we win, we lose. If you've given everything, every Jules fan will get behind you.
Okay. Owen?
Favourite performance. Are we including last year or are we not allowed?
You concluded last year? Yeah, you concluded last year.
In terms of a 90-minute performance, I'd either go with the Rochdale win this year because we looked like we could have won the game by more than one. We never looked under any sort of threat, and we scored a goal. In general, I'd probably go with the 2-0 win at Accrington towards the back end of last year. I thought that was, well, I watched the whole game and I thought that was a really good performance. Oh, that's 2-1 at the end, wasn't it? But either way, I think they got their goal right at the end, didn't they? Yeah, I thought that was a game that we did really well in. We contained well. We rode our luck at times. That we had 2 real chances in the whole game, took them both and managed to win the game. So I'll probably say that one. I think this season, I don't think he's completely blameless in the fact that we've not, done particularly well so far. I think there are some certain decisions that I've not really agreed with. I still obviously back him massively, but I don't think he's completely blameless in some instincts. Excuse me. But no, I think he's definitely the right person to be here right now. Obviously, he could have done with more help in the window, but I think any manager for the past however many years could have said that. But I think he's doing his best he can, because by the sounds of it, he is trying to do 100 jobs when he's only meant to be just the manager because of the state we're in as a club. But yeah, I think we're in good hands with him, especially compared to what we might have been in if we had gotten rid of him. Because I'm sure Steve Level would have got the call in no time. But yeah, I think it's a case of, I want to believe with Harris, it's a case of we just need to get that win that we've been waiting for since the Rochdale game, get that goal as well, and then maybe after that, once a bit of confidence comes back within the team, we can be on the right path. I know it's a while away, but we'll probably lose Brentford in the cup if we can go there and put on a decent enough performance and only get narrowly beaten, and that'll do a lot of confidence as well. But that's a long way away.
Okay. Yeah, if people don't know that, you might have noticed on recent weeks that Gills have only been naming 6 subs, and that's because a rule this year is that you have to name 1 club development player on your bench. Harris was obviously asked about that previous weekend, and he basically he said that he doesn't feel it would be fair that if the youngsters are called upon, that he's going to chuck them into this sort of situation. However, in the current situation that we are in, obviously Joe Caboda's impressed in pre-season. Matty Mcarthur also impressed in pre-season. We've seen it in previous years where, or a lot quite far back, where Bradley Dack has broke in, being a youngster. Matty Jarvis has broken, being a youngster. At what point do you turn to these youngsters and say, actually, you know what? You are good enough. And if you are good enough, it doesn't matter about your age. You're good enough. Matt, would you go along with that?
Yes. I think if a player is that good, look at Wayne Rooney when he was 16 years old. You're gonna put them in your team and you're gonna play them. I do understand. I mean, I think with Joe Caboda, he's gone to Hastings. Is that correct? Yeah, he's at Hastings at the moment. Give him some minutes. I think he's only there on a short-term loan, so get out there, give him a few minutes, and then get him back. And I could see him happily, sitting on the bench, and if he needed to be called on, Matty Mcarthur. He's a bit of a strange one because I saw him at Dover and I thought he was excellent at Dover. Actually, I thought his movement off the ball was great. But again, I can understand why Harris isn't going to name him on the bench because he's 17, 18 years old. He's only a young lad. His movement off the ball might be excellent, but a couple of short passes that he hit, a couple of he'll give you all the effort in the world. But he's just not up to men's football at the moment. So I think if you're good enough, you're going to put them on the bench, or you're going to potentially start them. But at the moment, these guys, they need to learn their trade still a bit more. And I think Joe Caboda will come back and be one to go onto the bench, but and Bailey Akers as well. But Matty Mcarthur at the moment, I think he still needs a few more weeks, maybe months, before you'd consider putting them on the bench at least.
Okay, Owen.
So in terms of knowing if they're ready or not, I think it's sort of like foreign food in a way. You don't know it until you try it at the highest level, if you like, and that is where we are right now. I don't know where Matt's just gone there, But I think maybe the thing that annoys me, and I've said it to you before, James, is the fact that we loan players out to divisions where I personally don't think they're gonna be able to prove themselves too much. I think Bailey Acast, especially, who's played games at League One level now, I don't think sending him to, I don't know what division Hastings are in, for example. I don't think sending him that far down the pyramids, other than getting consistent game time, is going to do much for him. I think if you're good enough to get games in League One against Sheffield Wednesdays and teams like that, then I think you're probably above that level. I've always said I'd quite like him to go out on loan to teams that are local to us but are in decent levels of non-league football, so Conference South or Conference South, not going to go Conference North, are they? Or maybe a team in the conference if we think they are that good, but they're just not quite football league ready yet. I think Abode is one you could get away with sending to someone like Hastings, because I think before the start of the season, when we had no other options, I don't think anyone knew really too much about him. Whereas with Bailey, we knew he had ability from last season. MacArthur looked good in pre-season, but obviously that doesn't mean too much in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, he's gone back to play with the youth team now. Maybe he'll end up getting a loan. He's someone that I've just said to Akers, I don't think I should be sending to that level. MacArthur is someone I would send that to that level, because it's men's football, not professional football, but it's men's football, and I think he'd do well fitting in some of that. Whereas Akers obviously has that experience already, which is why I don't think it's right for him. But for MacArthur, I think that would have been a good move for him. But obviously, we can't send everyone out of the youth team on loan, because then we won't have a youth team. So I suppose you've got to keep some of them behind. It'd be interesting to see if MacArthur end up getting put into the squad here and there a little bit more. I know at the start of the season he was put in for the first couple of games, but that's more needs must, because we didn't have any other players, rather than Harris looking at him thinking you should be in the squad. I think it's maybe we'll see in January what we pick up or what we struggle to pick up, whether he looks at these players again and thinks, well, you've got to have a go now because we've got nothing left.
Okay. Yeah, I think you've got to give a lot of them, say a few more weeks. I mean, Joe Abode is right to be at Hastings, but Bailey Akers, I think he should have gone to a slightly higher team. But maybe there's method in Neil's madness there. So let's hope it all comes good.
I do have to head now, boys. So enjoy the last 15 minutes or so.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for your time tonight.
See you later.
Thank you,
Yeah, Matt. We I think what we're gonna do with the questions. We've still got loads and loads of run through, and I think we'll be here all night. So I think what we're gonna do, we're gonna preview Grimsby tomorrow, and then we are going to be doing a live Twitter space on Friday night, where we will answer the remaining of the questions that we've got left, and we will then also preview Mansfield, which is the following day, and that will be at 8:00 on Friday night live on our Twitter. So that's what we'll do with the questions. So to wrap up tonight, we'll preview tomorrow night's game against Grimsby. Then it's obviously first game we've had in 10 or 11 days, travelling north. Give us your thoughts on it. We would have taken a lot out of the performance against Swindon, albeit we haven't scored again, but it was an outstanding effort from the boys to get a point after being 10 men for 80 minutes. Matt, just preview the game for tomorrow night for us.
I mean, I generally think if the boys were to turn up tomorrow and put in that same amount of effort they put in against Swindon, I think we're going to give Grimsby a run for their money with 11 players on the pitch. Look, obviously, you never know what happens in that 90 minutes, and we can sit here until the cows come home and guess what score and who's going to score and what player ratings are going to be and how players are going to play. The good thing is, I think, being away from home, we've had that Swindon break, going away from home, going up to Grimsby, I think is going to hopefully help us a little bit. Let's get up there. Let's give 110% from the second that whistle blows, and let's score a couple of goals. And I don't know if it's me. I don't know why. I've just got a feeling. If we can get one goal, I think they'll start pouring in.
Sometimes they do say London. Well, the old cliche, isn't it? Like London buses. Once one comes along, they all start coming along. Yep. So, and you alluded to it earlier when we started speaking about Robbie McKenzie, that you wouldn't change too much with the team from Saturday in terms of personnel. And I think you mentioned that you'd probably only make the one change, which is it's enforced, isn't it, with Minoga coming out?
Yeah, I mean, it would literally be for me, Minoga out, Will Wright in. I actually quite like Will Wright. I actually a couple of times I've been to the games and just sort of watch what he does. I think he's a good sort of pick for this level. So yeah, just bring him in. But yeah, the other same 10 that started that game and Will Wright.
Okay, right. That's the end of the ME7 Podcast episode 21. Thank you for sending your questions in. Like we've mentioned, if we haven't answered them tonight, we will be answering all of the rest of them on Friday night live on our Twitter space as we preview the Mansfield game on Saturday as they come to ME7. However, we have got the small matter at Grimsby Town tomorrow night back in Sky Bet League 2. Can the Gills score their first goal in over 600 minutes? Matt is going for a 2-0 win to the Gills. Can we see it? Can we see the Gills pick up their first 3 points away from home and that all-important goal that they need? We'll have to wait and see. Can the Gills do it? Well, we'll have to wait and see. However, thanks for watching. Keep liking, keep subscribing, keep watching us, keep retweeting. Your support has been amazing, as always. And as always, up the Gills. Good night.